here from Blossom Racing. Going to do a video for you on how to completely disassemble a 42 millimeter carburetor and the cleaning process on the 42, and then I am going to do a video on installing a rebuild kit into one of these carburetors. I also talk about everything in the carburetor that you're going to be looking for on what to modify and how to work on one of these carburetors. So let's dive into this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just get the carburetor set up in a vise so I can work on it and use both hands. So just put the vise in here, and you're basically going to clamp right here on this aluminum part right where the float bowl is. That way you don't do any damage to the carburetor. And just don't put it too tight, just nice and snug. So first place we're going to start off is going to be on the top of the carburetor, and we're just going to take the 42 carb top off this. This is the retention piece on the carburetor. Has a little stud that comes out here and hooks to a piece that is connected to your intake manifold. Here is your idle adjuster. We designed this top with an idle adjuster so that you could adjust your idle up top instead of the stock idle adjuster that comes on the carburetor. That's what that is. This is a flex cord, and that is also the stock idle adjuster. And this is the aftermarket idle adjuster. So let's get this top off here. Just take the 3 bolts out, pop the top off, and here's your top gasket right there. Be aware there is an O-ring that sometimes will stick right here, but as you can see, the O-ring is right there, and you just want to make sure that that's there. Okay, so once you get the top off there, we are going to remove the roll pin so that we can take the slide out of the carburetor. Pretty simple. Just need a pin driver for the roll pin. Come up here up top, and I usually do this on the idle cam side. This is your idle cam right here. This is the butterfly side. You can actually take it off on either side. Preference for me, I just always take the idle cam one off. So that's how I will be showing you how to do it today. And then what I do is I'll tap it all the way through so that the pin comes off on the other side. So as you can see, I have the pin. Pull your driver back out, and then I'll take that pin back from the top and just get it started. I just tapped it in there a little ways just to get it started. That's going to make it a lot easier for when I get to reassembling this carburetor. Then you just hold on to the butterfly side, grab a hold of your idle cam, and basically it just pulls off. Be careful of this spring. It'll want to shoot out on you. So you just take it and release the pressure on the spring, and there's your idle cam. So we'll save that aside because we'll send that through the parts washer. I usually leave that there. You can take it off too. The spring has 2 sides to it. The one side has a U-shape, and the other one is kind of just like a 90-degree shape to it. This one is a U, and this is a 90. The 90-degree one is the one that goes on first, aiming down, because that pushes up against the carburetor. The U-shaped one is the one that grabs a hold of this piece right here on your idle cam when you go to reassemble it. So, okay. All right, and then pretty simple, we're just going to grab a hold of the butterfly and get this up straight so that we can remove this bolt, and then you have a tab right here that you have to tap out of the way. With the spring off, this doesn't spring back, but you're going to come in with a screwdriver on those little tabs. Both sides, and just get that tab away from the head of the screw so you can turn it. So just like that, if you can see that, come in with your Phillips, crank that off. All right, and let's take a look at that. If you look at it, it's got two little tabs right here on a 90-degree. And if you look at your arm on your slide, it's got a little notch there which fits that tab perfectly. So when you put it back together, you slide that back in, and then you bend this tab up against the head of the bolt, and that just prevents that from backing out. So once you got that bolt out, grab a hold of your butterfly, leave all this plastic on there and the spring on there, and just pull that butterfly and the whole rod right out. Everything's going to kind of fall, but that's okay. It's not going to go anywhere. So there's your rod. Reach down inside, push up on your slide. Be ready. There are 2 nylon washers that go on each side of your arm. So one of the nylon washers is going to go right there, and the other one that's down inside here, when you put it back together, is going to go on the other side, just like that. So here's your slide. Has a little retainer right here, and under the retainer there is an O-ring. And if you look at this O-ring, it is obvious that this O-ring is messed up. It's ripped right there. It's all out of shape. It looks like it's just horrible. So we'll be replacing that O-ring right there. Now, some of these slides remove this O-ring and run it like that. And the reason they do that is because they notch the slide right here, which leans out your carburetor, makes it so you can idle it a little bit higher. That's a little trick maybe we'll talk about a little bit later. But so this whole piece right here is going to go through the ultrasonic cleaner to be cleaned. You can see all the gunk, all the buildup right here. Check your needle, take your needle and spin it like this, and you're just looking to see if that needle's bent. Check the tip out on the needle, make sure that it's not crushed or anything wrong with it. Needle looks good, so let's move on to the next part. So we got the top all off, we got our nylon bushings off. Nothing else on the top here that we have to take off. So we're going to flip over to the bottom of the carburetor and take the bowl off and show you everything. Okay, the next step is going to be removing the fuel inlet elbow and the air mixture screw. The fuel inlet elbow right here has a couple O-rings on it. A little trick that I learned, I just tried to take this screw out and it wouldn't come out. It started to strip the actual Phillips on the head of the screw. So a little trick, just take a hammer, your screwdriver, give it a little tap, and usually it comes right out. it's going to make a liar out of me. Holy moly, guys, that one's in there. Holy He-Man put that one in. Whew, okay. That is my exercise for the day right there. Whew, holy cow. So, freaking carburetor trying to make a fool out of me. So here's the little C-clip that holds the 90-degree fuel inlet in, and your Phillips head screw right there that did not want to come out. Set those aside, grab the fuel inlet, pull it out. You can see there are 2 O-rings right there, and they're hard as a rock, so we'll be replacing those. Then we are going to replace the air mixture screw. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is screw it in and basically count how many turns, so I can, when I put this back together, I'll know where to put it. So there's a half a turn, and there's 3/4, so it is 3/4 of a turn out. That's normally about where we run them. So let's get that out of there. So out comes your air mixture screw, and still inside the carburetor is an O-ring, a spring. That's not an O-ring. You got a spring, which that goes on your air mixture screw first, and then down inside there is going to be a gold washer and a O-ring. So we're just going to reach down in there and move it around a little. There is the washer. Let me grab a flashlight. O-ring is still down in there. And how I do it is I just have a little ball end Allen, and I try to get it down in there and stick it inside that O-ring. And usually that loosens it so that it'll come out. Then you just drop that on the floor. And you know what? Every time you drop something on the floor, I think it's like a law that it has to roll underneath your bench, because every time I drop something, it always goes under the bench, like every time. I got to put a piece of wood down there to stop it, but you know, I haven't done that yet. So anyway, once we get this O-ring out of here, we can move on. That little bugger does not want to come out. So sometimes you got to sit there and play with it a little bit, and so you can get that little bugger out of there. There it is. Sometimes it's a real pain. So right there you got your air mixture screw, your spring, your washer, and then your O-ring goes on it. Just like that. We'll set that aside. All right, so for the outside of the carburetor, that is basically everything that we do to it. You have this vacuum line right here on your 42 carb. As you can see, we tap that and you put a plug in it. That's basically for a Harley Davidson, they'll use that as a signal. You also have another line down here, another vacuum line. Same thing with this one. We will tap it and put a set screw in it to plug it. All right, so let's move on to the float bowl. We'll get those 4 screws removed. It's been a while since these ones have been off because these are tight. All right. So there's your 4 screws. Now, is there anything in here that's going to come flying out? Absolutely. If You see this big round part on your carburetor right here? That is where your plunger and your spring is. So if you pull this off, there is a chance that that plunger is going to fall out and the spring's going to fall out. Chances are you will find that plunger. That spring is going to go into a portal and you will never see it again. So I just take my finger and kind of curl it around the bowl just to hold that plunger in so it doesn't come popping out of there. All right. And then you got your O-ring. Pull your O-ring off, and if you try to play with that O-ring, this is not very pliable. It's actually pretty strong. So we're going to do a rebuild kit in this. Plunger is actually pretty stuck. It's actually not going to come out. That's usually what happens to those plungers over time. They just corrode in there, and pretty much they no longer come out. This tube right here is just an overflow tube for your bowl. So once your floats come up, and if your floats don't shut off, fuel will come out of that. Sometimes, a lot of the times with the juniors, these things vibrate so bad that fuel will come out of that. So what we typically do is pinch this closed, or some people will put solder down in the tip of it just to close it off. Me, I like to do it quick and easy. I just take it to my vise and just clamp the very tip of it closed like that. All right. Here's your rod for your accelerator pump. Just pushes in there and pulls right out. No big deal. There's my little O-ring and spring. So I'm going to just take that off and put it over here so it don't keep falling off. Next thing, take that plunger out. We'll set that over there. We'll send that through the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's get the main jet out. Just like that. There's your main jet. This is a Holly jet. You can also use Max jets. Holly jets and Max jets have the exact same thread. So just so you know that, the stock Mikuni thread is different than the Holly. So kind of good information there. And then we're going to take the main jet holder out. This little brass piece does a couple things. It holds your emulsion tube in so it can't come out and move around. And it also holds your main jet. So we'll take that out, set that aside. Now you have your emulsion tube down inside. We just have to take that out. Usually you can flip these over. If the carburetor is brand new, usually they'll fall right out. But this one's not gonna, so I'm gonna reach inside the throat of the carburetor and push on that emulsion tube. Hopefully, if it's not too corroded, it pops right out, just like that. And if you look really close at this emulsion tube, this is a stock emulsion tube. There is no cross holes drilled into this emulsion tube. If you were to drill cross holes into this, it would make this air jet on the back of the carburetor functional. Okay, more on that on a different video. That's a different rabbit hole that we'll run down. But we're going to take that emulsion tube, set that aside. That'll run through the ultrasonic cleaner as well. Let's remove the bolt that holds the floats in. So normally I just screw that out a little bit and then pull the slide out. But we are going to run this carburetor through the ultrasonic cleaner, and with that bolt loose, it is going to come all the way out, and then I'm going to have to dig around in the bottom of the ultrasonic cleaner to find it. So let's just beat it that so I don't have to dig through that, and we'll remove that. Here is your float and your float pin, your needle. I'm going to remove those. Now these floats right here should weigh 16 grams. If they get up around 18, 19 grams, you're going to want to replace these. So 16 grams for a 42 millimeter carb. We'll set all this stuff over here. Then we just have the seat. Have a little Phillips screw that holds that in. Same thing, Phillips head, hammer, tap. Usually makes it easier to come out, comes right out. If you drop this screw, it is going to fall down into the carburetor, into this little crevice, and it's going to wedge itself down in there, and it is going to be a royal pain in the ass to get out. So don't drop that down there. Set that aside. Take a little pair of needle nose, grab a hold of your seat, and pull it right out. As you can see, it has an O-ring on your seat. This is the 2.3 needle and seat that we install in these. This is the alcohol seat. So we're going to set that aside. Then you have your pilot jet. We will remove that pilot jet just like this. Perfect. Set that aside. That, my friends, is everything on the carburetor that you need to remove before you begin cleaning this. All right, so we are going to head over to the parts washer, get that carburetor in there, and get it nice and clean for you. All right, here we are at the parts washer, the ultrasonic cleaner, and we are going to get it loaded up. So the top, the body of the carburetor, we're going to lay that in there sideways. The float bowl is going to be laid in there. Here's your butterfly and your arm. This top gasket we're going to peel off there, lay that in. The slide is going to lay in there, and we're going to take that steel piece, lay that in there. Now let's grab all the tiny pieces, and I have the little metal tub there. That is basically for all these little pieces. So we are going to get those in there. So I got the 4 bolts for the float bowl. The accelerator pump rod is going to be laying in there. The 9-degree fuel inlet elbow, your spring for both sides of the idle arm, your little metal washer. Here's the idle arm. I'm not going to run the plastic through it. You got the emulsion tube, your main jet, your pilot jet. Here's all the other screws. And then we're going to throw in the air mixture screw. I'm going to take that O-ring off. Well, I'm going to leave it on. That way maybe it'll stay all together and I won't have to fish it. So, all right, we'll set that all in there. I've been heating up the ultrasonic cleaner, so the fluid in there is getting a little warm. Here's the bolts for the top. And pull these out and drop that down in there. Just kind of look at everything, make sure everything is immersed. Put your top on, hit the button. We got this preset for 30 minutes. We're going to run this for 30 minutes, and we'll see you guys when it is done. All right, the parts are done in the ultrasonic cleaner. So we'll grab those parts and bring them over to the parts washer. And in the parts washer, we are going to just spray all the parts off. Just like this. Get it all over that carburetor. Okay. And then we're going to get a bottle of WD-40. This is a Lucas bottle for Speedy Wax, and these are the best ones I found for WD-40. Except if you drop them, they crack. But other than that, they're awesome. All right, so let's grab a hold of the slide. Gonna take a brush to it. This looks like there's still just a tiny little bit of buildup on it, not much. Get her all clean. Spray her down with WD-40, and then just be careful of that needle. You don't want to mess that needle up. There. Spray it off. There is your slide in your arm. That baby is ready to go. So we'll set that back over here on the bench. We'll go to the carb top. Looks really good. Looks like it got cleaned all the way around. Spray it with the WD-40. Spray it off. We're going to do that with basically all these parts. Carburetor, I mean, you're going to drench this thing with WD-40 all over. As you're going around, just kind of look at it. Make sure there's no dirt or buildup anywhere. If you find some, you know, just grab a brush, kind of rub it. That'll get any of the excess stuff. It'll just knock it off because it already went through the ultrasonic cleaner. Spraying it in all the little crevices, all the little holes. And back to the air gun. Just like that. And our parts washer, we run mineral spirits in it. So just so you know. The ultrasonic cleaner, as you see, it freed up the plunger and the spring. So I'm just going to pull that plunger and spring out, set it in my little basket so I don't lose it. Then you're just going to WD-40 the crap out of it. Clean it all up. One little brush is gone. Come down here and grab one. Grab yourself one of these little cleaner brushes. Just going to set it down in there and kind of turn it. Just to clean anything out of there that shouldn't be in there. Just like that. Pull that back out. Air it off, and that is good to go. Here's your little ring. As you can see, it's still kind of dirty. So we're just going to take a brush. I got a brass brush right here. Because this stuff is a little bit stickier. And just scrub her up nice and good. Check the back side. Little bit right there. Back to the WD-40. Sprayer off. Butterfly, the control arm. Spray those off. Spray some WD-40 down in there on all your stuff. All right, there's the arm. Springs, the butterfly, idle arm. Tear those off. Set them on my little towel over there. Fuel in there. We'll pull those O-rings out of there and get some new ones in there. Your butterfly, little metal washer, and your spring. Get those all setting over here on my bench. Here's the rod. You just want to rub your fingers on it, make sure there's no rough spots on it. Feels like it got all the corrosion off it. Emulsion tube. Get that all cleaned off. We're good to go there. Here's the air mixture screw. And I'm just holding my finger there, make sure that none of that stuff comes flying. All right. Plunger spring. You're just going to dig the rest of the parts out of here. Get them on your workbench, ready to reassemble. So that is going to be it for this video. I'm going to do a follow-up video on this carburetor, and that follow-up video is going to be installing a complete rebuild kit. And we have a new product from Mikuni, and it is a rebuild kit that comes in its own little package, and then we add a couple things to it, and I will highlight that in the next video. That will be installing a rebuild kit on a 42 carb. So I really hope this video helped you guys out. You can now clean your own 42 carbs, or you can still send them to us, either way. But hopefully this video helps you out if you're a mechanical type person that likes to try this sort of stuff. I really hope this video guides you and helps you learn this. So please like and subscribe to my page. It really helps. Gets me motivated to do more videos, and we'll see you guys on the next one.